Hi, happy to be traveling on the Basketball Coaches Road with you. This, episode number 13, is a short segment from the video biography, The Big O, the Oscar Robertson Story. Proud to say I wrote, narrated, directed. Oscar authorized the biography. It took us 3 years. I always say, on the rare occasions I see him now, you are the greatest player to ever play the greatest game ever invented. We released this in 2001 on VHS. But this is the DVD, and eventually it became a video file, which I have. If you want to see the entire 2-hour video biography, you can send me an email, and I'll send you a link. We shot the video in SD, standard definition, just before the advent of this pristine, crystal, clean look of HD. So it's old, but Oscar's high school video is so stunning. His high school days at Crispus Attucks in Indianapolis. That's the 10-minute segment I've pulled for you to see. Vintage footage of the man as a high schooler in Indiana who would go on to be the symbol of the triple-double. So we begin now. The first 5 seconds is a reenactment of elementary school Oscar receiving a gift from his mom, Mazel.
A basketball!
I used to take tennis balls and rag balls and things and throw them in trees. So then when I got the ball, I was able to go in the park and actually really put the ball in the basket.
Something he would do often as he rose to stardom at Crispus Attucks High School. The 1950s.
Crispus Attucks staff had more PhDs and MAs on staff than any other school in the state. So we had the best as far as educators were concerned.
But to us, it was just a magical time.
It was like a tremendous, wonderful social event where teachers really cared about you, where you had respect for teachers. They were there trying to get you an education and not the basketball per se. We were told during those days, through education, you were able to get out of this situation you're in and go further into the world.
By his sophomore year, Oscar had moved into the Tigers' starting lineup.
I grew one year, from my freshman year to my sophomore year, maybe 6 or 7 inches.
Other than having talent, he had it up here, smarts.
Mr. Crow had it made. He had a coach out there on the floor as well as himself. Because really the guys looked up to Oscar as though he was a coach because he was just that type of leader.
Crispus Attucks moved into the quarterfinals Oscar's sophomore year, where it lost to eventual state champion Milan.
He was tough then. Oscar was like a rubber band. He could stretch and reach farther than anybody I've ever seen in my life. And he got nothing but better after that. To me, he is the best that I have seen in Indiana high school basketball.
Down there near where he lived, they had a little court, and he'd be down there, and everybody'd be gone to bed, and he'd be out there practicing. That's what they call the Dust Bowl.
The Dust Bowl, nicknamed for dust flying around the edges, was a court located at the government housing projects called Lockfield Gardens. The unrestrained style of Dust Bowl gave way to Crispus Attucks, where there was more structure and more opportunity. For instance, to become the first high school from Indianapolis to win an Indiana State basketball title. But Attucks would have to win without a home court. Attucks had been built with an on-site gym, but it was barely big enough to practice in.
It would seat about 500 students, bleachers on one side only. We started playing at the Butler Fieldhouse. Every school in the state wanted to play Attucks. Most of the time, the attendance was over 10,000.
And so Attucks played all its games on the road, but always with a passionate following. The animated Crispus Attucks fans, in honor of their team's stunning record, devised a proclamation of victory.
There was no certain score where the song began, but everybody knew when it began, the game was over. Oh, Tech is rough and Tech is tough. They can beat everybody, but they can't beat us. Hotty, 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 hotty. Hotty, 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 ho. Oh, skip, bop, beat 'em. That's the crazy song. That's the crazy song. Yeah!
As flamboyant as the Attucks crowd was, Oscar was the opposite.
He was never flashy.
He was sort of introverted.
The Tigers' only regular season loss Oscar's junior year was at Connorsville. But in the city championship, Attucks had a double overtime game versus Shortridge.
Oscar jumped center on the last center jump.
In 1955, the second overtime was sudden death. First team to score wins.
He got the ball out that thing, Bill Brown. He got it back to Oscar. He raised up in a big jumper, and that was it.
There was an even tighter tournament moment. Oscar made the winning play again, this time from defense. An interception with seconds left to stop Muncie Central's potential winning play. Attucks won the regional 71-70, advanced to the state championship weekend, where the semi and the final are played on the same day. When Attucks won in the afternoon and advanced to the evening title game versus segregated Gary Roosevelt, it was the first all-black final in Indiana history. That night's final was paramount. Attucks was focused on becoming Indy's first state basketball champion of any color.
Oscar Robertson from the corner. Terrific. Attucks had one less shot, but a better percentage. Robertson is scoring.
Attucks led all the way, led by 19 at the half. There never was any question about which team was going to win.
Mitchell picked for him nicely, and Robertson got it. There goes Robertson around. In there. Pick up their scoring pace. All the way under, he got it. Robertson.
Going into that game, the highest point total ever in a state championship game was 68. Roosevelt beat that by 6, and it was never in the game.
Hampton firing and running. Robertson. He'll fire from the corner. Could be in there. That's 30 points for him.
His 30-point game wasn't anything special. It was just Oscar. I mean, that was the way he played.
And it's all over. Indianapolis wins their first state basketball championship.
We felt that it belonged to the Christmas Attucks fans.
Several schools had won back-to-back titles, but Indiana had never crowned an undefeated champion. The analysts of the day did not predict a repeat, let alone Attucks' perfection.
Entering that season, I think people thought Attucks was more vulnerable because they'd lost 4 of the 5 starters. They did keep the best one.
The 1956 team scored over 80 points 9 times. In February, a staggering 123 points versus the state's 10th-ranked team. Unlike the prior year, there wasn't a loss, not even a close call.
Competitiveness that we experienced was more with us, within the team. If you made a mistake, somebody was going to come in there and you might not get back in.
Oscar averaged 25 points per game and set a state record when he scored 62 versus Sacred Heart.
It really didn't matter to me whether I had broke that record or not. I just wanted to win.
The defending champion Tigers took a 2-season, 44-game winning streak and a 30-win, 0-loss record into the 1956 title game.
Crowd that turned out for the state finals of 1956. So now we're all set to play ball for your Admiral Dealer once again, and over WISH, this in Indianapolis, Ruth Walsh.
The Big O, Oscar Robertson. He's the only player I ever saw in the finals that played all 3 positions, center, forward, and guard, and played them like a star.
Walking to the batting line. Shakes his head and hands it over to Brown. They have 3 men out. Oscar takes it while Brown gets down in there. Oscar goes down the right-hand side, lays it up there and in there, unmolested. Patton holding the ball high above his head, dribbles around the right side of the free throw circle, sends it to the right of the basket with Oscar Robertson, who puts it up there and in there. A blind pivot shot by Oscar Robertson. Sits down the floor to Oscar. He drives into the free throw circle, drives in under the basket, puts the ball up there and in there. Oscar had to be a houdini to get that shot underway.
Oscar scored 39 in a 22-point win, leading unbeaten Attucks to the second consecutive state title. Veteran writer Bob Collins of the Indianapolis Star newspaper said it was the best team he had ever seen because Attucks had the toughest schedule in the state. During the course of the regular season and tournament, beating 7 of the top 10 rated teams in the state. There were 2 All-Star games. Oscar scored 34 in the first, 41 in the second. A former Indiana high school player and young college coach was in the stands for both, recruiting for his UCLA team.
Of all the high school players I've ever seen, I thought Oscar was one that could move as a senior, move right into the pro ranks and become a star. He was so much better than all of the great players in high school with whom he was associated in an all-star game. He was unselfish, he had power, he was quick, he could hit from outside, he could handle the ball, he had great vision, could pass the ball, and defensively he was very good, which is often overlooked. All the other players were good, but he was so much better, there just was hardly any comparison. He just stood out so much, I thought he could immediately have been a star in the pros.
This interview with Coach Wooden is the year 2000. We were at Conseco Fieldhouse in downtown Indianapolis. It's got a different name now. But there was a college doubleheader there sponsored by Purdue called the John Wooden Tradition to kick off the season. Purdue, as you probably know, is Coach Wooden's alma mater. He's 89 years old in this interview here. He lived another 10 years. He asked to do this interview in the stands so he would not have to walk flights of stairs to get to the private press room that we had booked there at Conseco Fieldhouse. But you can hear the strength in his voice. His mind razor sharp, giving the scout on high school Oscar from almost 50 years earlier. And what a thrill to meet him. I've read his book, They Call Me Coach, 1,000 times. You probably have too. Oscar chose the University of Cincinnati, came out with his degree in business, was a very successful entrepreneur, and he also emerged the NCAA all-time leading scorer until he was passed by Maravich, who was then passed by Clark. He played for the Cincinnati Royals and the Milwaukee Bucks, where he won the NBA title 1971 with his center being a young 7-footer to become known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Oscar, of course, a first ballot Hall of Famer. You're on the Coach's Road, where basketball coaches travel, along with passionate hoop enthusiasts. Please subscribe. It's free for you. It helps me. Next post coming soon. Hey, check out these credits, please. Coach B, over and out.